Hello, beautiful. I'm your host, Nicole Goff. Welcome to the Ecstatic Life Podcast, the podcast for women who want to live fully embodied, nervous system regulated, open-hearted, radiant, and alive. Here we explore the practices, modalities, and lived rhythms that return you to yourself, to your heart, to your body, your intuition, and your divine spark. This podcast is for women who are ready to awaken their inner creatrix, activate their inner manifester, and remember, an ecstatic life isn't a destination. It's the path we're walking together.
Hello, and welcome back to the Ecstatic Life Podcast. I am your host, Nicole Goff, and today I am here with Shailah Gulyas, and she is the host of the Pivot Life Podcast and a travel and family gap year specialist. Welcome, Shailah.
Thank you for having me.
Shailah is also another one of my friends from the Jocelyn Dawn manifestation world. So it's been fun to connect to the other women in there and then podcast swap. It's been I think that's one of the best things about getting in these rooms with other women in these, in these groups in that way is the connections that you make. That's to me, the most invaluable part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've met a whole ton of wonderful women, and it just keeps growing, which is awesome too.
Yeah. You did Kelty Jean's podcast also, right?
I did, yeah. Right at the very beginning, yeah.
Yeah. I had her on, and that was a really awesome do it anyway conversation. If you caught that, it was super inspiring. I love her story, and I'm gonna do a podcast swap and go on with her too. So yeah, it's been so fun. I've had Jocelyn on too, so yeah, hopefully I can get on yours as well. Although we're here to kind of focus today on travel with family, travel with kids. Speaking of dogs, my dog wants to. Yes, as podcast hosts, we were just saying before we hit record, how sometimes there are interruptions, like dogs, and there's my dog in the background just saying hello. Oh my gosh. But we're here to talk about travel mostly, and I have not been super well traveled in my life, unfortunately. We have gone to so far 2 different countries, and I have made it halfway up the East Coast. And when I was in my teens, I took a cross-country trip out west to Utah and back. But I could definitely use to explore more of the world. So I'm excited to hear tips and tricks traveling with kids, because I have a bunch of them, as you know. And that's a whole other thing. So I wanted to start out though in reading your intro. What is the gap year? Because that is actually a term I'm not even familiar with.
Yeah, so it's becoming more of a thing talking about family gap years. So I think it originated it used to be, I don't know, back when I was in university, a British thing. They would take gap years. They would take a year off after university or after high school, before they went to university, to travel for a year to just kind of discover themselves and that kind of thing. But what we're seeing now and what we've been doing for the last couple of years is it's kind of slowly infiltrating into more family years off, where families are kind of getting their finances together and taking a year off, maybe not necessarily from work. Maybe they've transitioned online or some way that they're financing it, but taking a year and world traveling, whether that's kind of being more stationary, which is what we tend to do, or I've got lots of friends that are, a different country every 3 to 6 weeks kind of a thing. So yeah, and then for some, they just keep going and they never go home. For us, we return back home generally, and back kind of into our real lives after that. So
okay. See, that's illuminating. So I do understand as far as the gap year now. Yeah, it's like when teenagers are coming of age and they go off to find themselves. So I have heard about that a lot. And yeah, that would probably be what my trip out west was when I was 17, 17 to 18. So yeah, that makes sense. So wow, okay. So I had a woman on about maybe 6 months ago who is a world schooler. And so she homeschools her kids kids, and she travels the world. Her and her husband work remotely, and they live in different countries, and sometimes they have a home base and sometimes they don't. And
Mhm.
so this is different though. This is like, are your kids in traditional school, but then you take a year off, or are your kids homeschooled?
Well, we've done a bit of everything, to be honest. We homeschooled our girls. So my eldest daughter, she's gonna be 23 at the end of this week. So she did traditional schooling the whole way through. My middle daughter, um, she came home to homeschool partway through grade one. We'd had kind of some stuff going on and it just wasn't working. And I was already working with some of the distance learning schools here in British Columbia. And so I was home working as a teacher. So it kind of made more sense to have my kids home. And we did that all the way up until we got back from Costa Rica. So for our first gap year, in 21, 22, we went down to Costa Rica for a year. And we did a combination of things. The girls, um, we homeschooled, but then we also kind of the cool thing about Costa Rica at the time, and now it's kind of evolved and continued, is a lot of families built like, I don't know what you'd call them, like satellite schools almost, where it's just like a bunch of families got together, they hired a teacher or they had a teacher, and we just found kind of a project-based learning, really chill environment, and they were willing to take our girls 2 days a week just so that they could get that socialization with other kids and do something out of my house. And it also gave me the opportunity, because I was working online at the time, to get some work done and have a little break, because homeschooling for sure is a lot of on time as a parent, I'm sure you know. And
Yeah.
then yeah, so then once we came back to Canada, my middle daughter really expressed interest to go back to the public school system here. And she wanted to do French immersion. So we said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And so now they're in traditional school now, both of them, French immersion here in our hometown. And it's going fairly well. I mean, I personally, my mother heart misses homeschooling, but
Mm.
14-year-old trying to keep her home if she wants to be out is really hard to do. And she's thriving, to be honest. Like if she was at risk or there was, other things going on, it would be a totally different story. But she isn't thoroughly thriving right now. And we've kind of always been open to whatever makes sense at the time.
And how does that work with the school system when if you're like, well, we're taking a year off, see ya. They're just okay, like in BC, like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really have a choice.
Ah!
I mean, I think what's really lucky about British Columbia particularly, I don't know, actually don't even know what the rest of the province looks like. We have a lot of what are called distance learning schools, that are either public or private, or well, they're not really private, but they're called independent schools. And so you can actually link up with a teacher and be registered with the school. Like you're technically enrolled with the school. And so it offers a lot more flexibility in terms of for families that want to stay on the curriculum, like the provincial curriculum, to travel and stuff and do like that. And you're not out of the system, so to speak. We also have the opportunity to homeschool if we want to. You can just register and say you're homeschooling and do whatever you want. And then for us this time around, so we're heading to France this year. Um, and by this year, I mean like in 3 months. I'm trying to get my head wrapped around it. We haven't even bought plane tickets yet, but we're leaving. The girls are planning to go to school in France. They have their Hungarian citizenship, which is kind of a bonus. And so they can go to pretty much any EU school if they so choose. So they're going to give that a try. I know um, Lorelai, my middle daughter, really wants to make sure, like I think she's gonna try and take math online because she really doesn't want to get behind in math. And then otherwise they'll try out the public system, and if that doesn't work, we'll try something else.
Wow, how long are you guys going to be in France?
I think it'll work out to about 10 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems so adventurous. So, your kids are older. How long have
Mhm.
you been traveling with them? Did this start when they were little?
Um, it's actually really funny. So our oldest, we did quite a fair bit of traveling. We did 6 months in the UK, and then we did 6 months in Australia with her when she was, I think she was four. Four turned five, and then five turned six. So we did kind of 2 years back to back. We were in university, so we just did what do they call it? Like an exchange program, which took a lot of convincing. Like we really had to convince the school that we were like solid as a family, and we were gonna go and bring this kid. And they're like, "Are you insane?" We're like, "No, we're gonna do this." But I was 21, like 22. Too. We were young, so it like didn't seem as crazy as maybe now it would. So we did that a couple times, and then we kind of, once we got out of school, we just settled down and kind of didn't do a ton of traveling for a while. Like we would do like, surf trips to Oregon or something, like just a quick drive to the coast, but nothing really big. And then let's see, about, well, I guess 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we had some kind of health scares and some tragedy things go on, and it kind of was a big wake up call for us. And it was like, hey, you only get to do this once. What is it that we really want to do? And traveling has always kind of been big for us, for Andrew and I, my husband. And he discovered that through work he could get it's they call it a 3/4. I'm sure it has a better title than that, where he pays in off of his paycheck every month, and they kind of just stick it in a reserve for him, and he gets a full paid year off at the fourth year.
Wow. Is this something
Mhm.
that's common? Because I'd never heard of that before.
So I was just doing my research because, again, like as a gap year specialist, you want to kind of know your numbers, and it's about 7% of companies, I think, in the United States offer some sort of sabbatical leave. So it's not a ton, but um I think really, like, when you break it down, is it something we could save for on our own? I think so. But we've just never had to have to, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that would probably be. So I think about like my husband. He is a carpentry supervisor, and
Hmm.
it's not the type of job where he could just say, "Hey, I'm going to take a year off and
Yeah.
then come back to the same job." They'd be like,
Yes.
"Okay, and we have to replace you."
Yeah. I
So
mean,
what would you say to somebody that's like, "Well, how do I fit travel in when I've got like a job that ties me to a place?"
yeah, I think there's a couple options. I think that there's a few organizations actually that I've discovered that will actually negotiate leave for you on your behalf, at least in the US. I don't know about in Canada, but at least in the US, I've come across a couple companies that will do that for you, where they kind of negotiate a leave, and they talk to your employer and say, hey, this is why it's beneficial for you, and they kind of negotiate it that way. Flexibility in what you want to do with your job. Like, I think that if you're open to really wanting to take on the adventure, are you open to maybe changing jobs, or quitting jobs, or doing something different? Transitioning into some sort of online work is always an option as well. I think, like, for me anyways, mindset wise, I think if there's a will, there's a way. Um, but yeah, like, a lot of people do get stuck on that, oh, I can't give up my career, I don't want to give up my job. And so it kind of holds them back that way for sure.
Yeah, well, okay, so I want to go back and touch on something that you said. You guys had some health scares, you said, some sort of tragedies in the family. So you said this was like a pivot point for you. And so this made you realize like you wanted to be living life to the fullest, right? So this is the
Yeah, absolutely.
Ecstatic Life podcast, and like the whole premise of the podcast is, what makes your life more ecstatic and embracing that. So I like to feature lifestyles, practices, modalities that bring more joy into your journey. And so I would say, and why I wanted to have you on to talk about this subject, that travel for me definitely like, sparks that
Hmm.
aliveness. And I'm sure like for you guys, that would be, even above and beyond since you've really made it such a big part of your lifestyle. So can you kind of go back and like touch on that for me? like when you were evaluating, when you guys were like, what's important? Because obviously, like, it's real easy to say, well, but this is my career. I need to, provide this like security and like we just want to plug away and retire. Like that's easy to say, but
Mhm.
obviously this was something that sparked so much joy and aliveness that you guys were willing to figure out all these ways to make it work. So,
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I feel partially like the spark had always been there, but we kind of did the buy a home, do the job, have the kids thing. Like we kind of did settle down quite a bit. For me personally, I just knew, I mean, I've never really fit into a traditional mold of anything in my life. And so I think like I had realized like I was pretty significantly not overly, I wasn't unhappy, but like I was bored. I guess bored would be a good word for it, but it never really hit me until like kind of you just realize how short life is. And do I want to spend my life working? I mean, I do work, but like all the time, 24/7, 7 days a week, summers doing what? We don't really like where we live, we're in the mountains. So there's the ski season, which my husband and my kids live for. For me, I'm kind of one way or the other, doesn't matter too much. But it gives us something to look forward to. It gives us something that we're working towards. I absolutely cannot imagine not traveling. Like I love being in new places. I love meeting new people. It gives me the opportunity to be whoever I want to be, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Like and just experience cultures and all of the things. I don't know. I don't know I would be doing what I'm doing in the day to day. I don't know if the day to day life would be as easy if I didn't have the travel pieces to look forward to.
yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, that's something that so many people face. And then what happens in midlife, you have some kind of a crisis or a health breakdown or something like that, because your soul is
Yeah.
screaming like, what are we doing trapped here? We're here,
Mm,
we have this one life, or
yeah.
possibly one of many lives, depending on your beliefs. But
Yeah.
we have this life this time, anyways. And why would we not be following what feels like alive to us, what feels, fully alive? And I completely feel you with the feeling bored. Like I have to switch things up. I have to change things up. And I would love to do more travel because that something you said, you can be whoever you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling that really like got me, that feeling of going into a new place in that way, where it's
Yeah.
almost like you're not carrying that baggage from your everyday life with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and no one knows you. Like I think for me, like we live in a small town, and as much as I like to pretend that my life is private, I know everyone in town knows something about me that maybe I don't want them to know or whatever. It doesn't even matter. But when you live in a small town, everybody knows everything all the time. And it's just like being able to go even to another small town where no one knows you. It's just a nice release to not have to, yeah, carry those things with you or you
Play
can
the game.
rewrite your own story however you want to.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, how have you used? We've been in the manifestation course together, and been in Jocelyn's world. Like I said, how have you used those tools, those manifestation tools, to assist you in creating this life that feels so good to you?
Yeah, I mean I've known Jocelyn for a very long time. And actually
Were you
so
guys in Costa Rica at the same time? Did you meet up
we
there?
were, well, yes, but we were different locations. So yes. And I did meet up with her, I think at least once, while we were there. But she's also from my town as well. So I met her here.
Oh, wow.
When she
I
first
didn't realize
moved
that.
here to Fernie, well, I mean, I think maybe she grew up here. I don't actually quite know her backstory, but yeah. So I knew her then as well. And I think the funny thing is that manifestation has always been a part of my life, but not necessarily consciously, if that makes
Mm,
sense. Like I think like I can remember even just in my 20s, like never worrying about money because it would just show up. It's just going to be there. It didn't matter. It's just going to be there. And then life happens, things shift, and you kind of lose that, I don't know, like openness maybe.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, when we first were, at least, yeah, when we first started trying to think about traveling and all of these things, I was really like dead set on just changing my life. It didn't matter what it was. I just couldn't keep doing what we were doing. And so I got really big into the EFT tapping. Um, I was determined to never step foot in a classroom again as a teacher, which I haven't since. And it's interesting because the way those things played out were not the ways I expected them to. It took 2 years before I took my last step in a classroom. And the weird part about that was I was 7 months pregnant with my youngest. I was 7 months pregnant with my youngest, and I got this random phone call on like a Tuesday in August, and it was one of the distance learning schools that I work for now was like, "Hey, are you still interested in working online?" And I had sent my resume to them 2 years before. And that kind of just like was the first like of many little things that kind of fell into place with that. And that, I mean, and just that position alone changed everything because then I was able to be home with my kids. I could, we were able to homeschool for 5 years, I think, in total by the time, we came back. It made the travel possible. It made like, could we live off of one income while we were away? Maybe. I think Costa Rica we probably could have, but we wouldn't have had the lifestyle that we had while we were there, but I was able to work. So yeah, it slips in ways I least expect it for sure.
Yes, I am. I'm running into that too. I'm probably consciously newer to manifestation. It started when I was pregnant with my fourth, and I wanted to have an empowered birth, and so I started learning about scripting and manifestation so that I
Mm.
could script the birth. And crazy thing was, it happened like to a T, the way I wrote it over and over and over
Oh wow.
again, and the way I visioned it. It was really cool. But yeah, so that was kind of my first step into it. But I really used it. I was in a tiny little house. I was in a two-bedroom house. We had just had our fifth kid, and I was like,
Mhm.
I can't, like, like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't tiny
I
home.
can't even
I can't
imagine.
tiny
Yeah.
home anymore. And so I manifested us into a big, I mean, big, whatever. I think we're 1,700 square foot or so, plus the new podcast studio edition, which I will be moving into this week. Um, but yeah, so like I manifested that, and in the same way, I said this is the reality that I want, and I figured out the way to get it, and not like force drive, but visioning it and holding that vision, and then taking the steps to move towards it. But yeah, I've noticed that same thing, that it's like the universe is funny because it's like the universe is a yes button, right? But
Yeah.
like you gotta sometimes be careful what you wish for because it comes in squirrely ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's funny because like I think too, like I'm thinking, like I think back to Costa Rica, and even now, like everything is playing out very similarly. Like we knew 3 years before we were going to Costa Rica that we were going to be traveling in the 2021-22 year. So yeah. And of course, right into that lead up, March 13th, COVID happened. We're
Oh
like,
yeah.
well, do we go? Do we not go? And we just all chips in, total faith, said, yeah, we're going. It's the same right now. Like they've got all this turbulence going on in the Middle East and all these kind of unknown things. And it's like, well, you know what? We're going. And I think having kind of that vision of, and that's the thing too, like I really do talk about a lot, with families that I'm working with and stuff, is that you can't plan. If you plan everything to a T, something's going to go wrong. Whereas if you're much more open and flexible and leaning into kind of just trusting the universe, or it generally works out. Is everything perfect? No, never. But we've had some really weird instances that things could have gone really sideways and they didn't, and it all just worked out. And I firmly believe that a lot of that has to do with just our approach to being in the world and
not
trusting.
not holding on so tightly, because when you're
Yeah.
like gripping and holding on so tightly, if something does go sideways in some way, it's devastating, like
Yeah.
to be able to be in the flow. And that, from the travel that we've done, so we went to El Salvador a couple of years ago, and we took our two youngest with us, and traveling with kids, traveling in a country where you're not like fluent in the language,
Mhm.
and you're not used to the customs and everything else, like of course there's going to be things that come up.
Mhm.
We took a wrong turn and got our rental vehicle stuck up a mountain.
Oh no. And they're mountains. Like I live in the mountains. El Salvador mountains are well, I mean, it's their roads. That's
Yes.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my
Wow.
husband. He's like, nah, we got this, we can make it. I'm like, nah, I don't think we do.
Oh goodness.
And having to communicate for help, and yeah. So yeah, being like flexible and being like
Mm.
open to, what life throws at you, because otherwise I could have had a complete meltdown in that
Yeah.
situation.
Oh, we've definitely had a few instances for sure.
Yeah, so Costa Rica is next on the list. I'm planning on going this year. We haven't set a date. We're waiting for a property we have to sell.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is next on my list. And so there's this thing that happens, for me anyways, where I'll get an idea in my head, and then there will be these little pings, these little breadcrumbs on the trail that will lead me to it. And so this
Hmm.
happened. This happened with Costa Rica, and me and my husband are actually wanting to invest in property outside of the U.S. And this has been something we've been talking about for 13 years, and
Hmm.
we've done our research, and it seems like Latin America is like where we would like to be. And so now we're kind of visiting different countries and
Hmm.
feeling it out. And so so yeah, so I had the idea pop into my head. Besides Jocelyn, I met two other people who I have become friends with that live there. A friend of mine moved there and bought property there. I just, little things popping up. There was a woman on my podcast who was having a retreat there and invited me to go. I wasn't able to swing it at the time, but it was just months of these little things. And I was
Yeah.
in the library at a book sale, and there, like on the top of the shelf, was a Spanish translation book specifically for Costa Rica, just like sitting right there. And I'm just like, I'm taking all these, at the signs, as
Yeah.
Jocelyn says, I'm taking all these as little signs. And I'm like, okay, well, something is like calling me there. And I know that there's different places have different energies. And there's some
Mhm.
places that they say have like energy vortexes. Costa Rica is one of those places. Bali is another one that, a lot of people are drawn to, that are in the spiritual or healing space. But how do you
Yeah.
guys choose? Like, what do you get those breadcrumbs, or is it more like a logical, like, obviously your girls are studying French and French immersion
Yeah.
school, so are
Yeah.
they like,
So
we want to go to France?
yeah, I actually, it's funny because I do have an ebook on this, but I haven't even posted it anywhere yet. I should probably do that. Yeah, so Costa Rica was an interesting one because, like, when we kind of first started, kind of like we get 3 years, right? If my husband gets the fourth year up, we have a long time to kind of think about where we want to go and what we want to do. So we usually don't nail it down until like maybe the year before. Like I think I'm trying to think when we decided France was going to be the thing, and I feel like it was like in the last 7 months, maybe if that. Maybe a little bit longer because I know the girls had a lot more input in this time. But Costa Rica was a funny one because very similarly, where it was like originally we were like, oh, well, we could go to Australia, we could maybe do New Zealand. We have kind of some specific criteria that we look for. Like we want to be able to surf, we want to be able to be near the beach. Um, and then of course the cost factor is always in there as well. But we were, and that was the thing, like with Australia, it was like going to be like probably around 10 grand in plane tickets alone just to get there and all the things, right? Like it's not an easy place to get to. We've done it before. We've been to Australia as well. Like not that I wouldn't thoroughly love to take my kids there again, like my younger two as well. Um, but we really wanted something new, and somehow Costa Rica just kept popping up in conversation, or people would say, oh yeah, you should go to Costa Rica. And it's funny because it wasn't like, I would say it's way more on the map now than it was then. Like, not that it wasn't a destination for a lot of people, but like it has blown up for sure. And part of that exactly was COVID. So like we kind of, I think around I want to say September of 2019, maybe even a little bit earlier, had decided, okay, we're going to do Costa Rica. And then we started kind of researching it and looking at the areas that we wanted to go to, which, by the way, we never settled in any of the areas we thought we were going to go to. Speaking of being open and flexible. um, and yeah, so then, 2020 happens, COVID happens, the whole world shuts down except for one country. Basically, Costa Rica stayed open as long as you could buy insurance to cover COVID if you caught it. They stayed open. And so we kind of were at this decision of like, okay, we can go. We could go to the US, we could go to Costa Rica. I'm trying to think if I don't even think Mexico was letting anybody in at the time that we were expected to travel. Because it was also like this weird window where like the vaccine thing was just starting to take hook, and we were kind of like, we gotta go. And so yeah, it just again worked out. Costa Rica stayed open. We paid for whatever travel insurance we needed to get into the country. We did our COVID tests and away we went.
Wow.
Yeah,
How
it was,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
To answer your, yeah.
I didn't realize that they were one of the few countries that actually allowed any travel. Me and my husband did the opposite. We did the bunker down and bought
Mhm.
like, $3,000 worth of dry goods for the closet. And like my husband took 3 months off of work and he was like, yeah, we're just not gonna leave the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we pretty much hunkered down like the first like we were here for a year, like the full year of 2020. Um, and immediately that was kind of the kicker for keeping the girls home for sure. Like Lorelai had already been home for about, I don't know, 6 months or so. Oh no, she had been home for the year before and then decided she wanted to go back for grade 2, I think it was. And she got to go back to school for like a week, I think. And then COVID happened. So I was like, okay, well, obviously that's not going to work. And by the time schools were reopening in September of that year, the restrictions, it was just too much. I have a very rambunctious, very marches to the beat of her own drums youngest, and there was no way I could send her to kindergarten as a kid who can barely follow the basic rules of existing in civilized world into a room with more rules and not like expect her to show up on my front door because she left because she got ticked off at something, and like there was no way it wasn't happening. So
Yeah, life got so ridiculous there for a
yeah.
minute.
Yeah. So both girls
Yeah.
came home. I stayed home with them. It was fantastic. It was like one of my favorite years, probably, honestly.
Mm.
My sister got locked down with us for that year. And so yeah, it was a fun year. Like we just kind of made an adventure out of it. But and then we went to
Us
Costa Rica.
too.
Yeah.
Actually, it's so funny because I met one of my best friends in 2019, right before that. And we had started a homeschool co-op in January of 2020. And then it
Yeah.
was like a month later, my husband, he's a massive, what they call quote unquote conspiracy theorist. So he's like ahead of everybody. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he's like, oh, some shit's coming. Like it's about to get crazy. Before it was out in the
Yeah.
news. He's
Yeah. Yeah.
like, oh, what's going on here? But at any rate, we ended up like just hanging out together. Like we kind of like locked down together and
Yeah.
we had run of everything. Like we would go to museums. There was
Oh yeah.
nobody there. We would go to
Yeah.
the beach. There was nobody on the beach. I mean, we
Yeah.
live in Florida and it's like there would be like one other person like way down on the beach and like everybody was so scared to go anywhere. So yeah, it was like we reminisce now because we have this huge co-op with like
Mhm.
35 families now and we're like, man, we kind of miss when it was just like
Yeah.
us and our kids and we got to like go everywhere and there was literally no line. There was
Yeah.
literally no one in your way to do anything.
Costa Rica was a bit like that, like because we've been back since, and we're just like, I don't remember it being this busy. It's so busy. um,
Well, that
because not a lot of people were traveling. The people that the people that were traveling during that time, most were specifically traveling for whatever reason to protect themselves.
yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah,
that
it was a lot slower.
that kind of actually brings something that I wanted to like touch on up is how do you think that like these countries change and for the better, for the worse? Like I feel like a
Mm.
lot of us as Westerners are moving to certain areas and really changing the culture. And I think Costa Rica stands out as one of the places where that's like very true. So what are your feelings on that?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting that you asked that because so the last 4 years, so we did Costa Rica for the year. We went back the following year for the summer. And then we did El Salvador, and then we just got back from Nicaragua this year. Um, and a couple of things, like I think Costa Rica's interesting because they really, for the most part, embrace the tourism. And I don't, and like it's a really amazing country in terms of the things that they're putting into their education system and the things that they're putting into their healthcare system and those kinds of things. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it probably got some, governmental challenges going on and behind the scenes? Absolutely. But I think it seems to be growing with the increase in populations for generally in the better. I don't know, obviously there's a lot of poverty still. But I think that um yeah, I think as a country, Costa Rica seems to have embraced the most. I worry about El Salvador. Um Nicaragua is its own deal. I don't know. It's a little bit different. Like I think Nicaragua is different in the sense that you don't have the mass amounts of people moving in the same way. As Costa Rica. It's got a lot more protected space that, or it's a lot more difficult, I think, to really settle and be in Nicaragua. There's a lot more poverty, a lot more turbulence. I think that's
Hmm.
the word. I'm trying to do it respectfully and not be like um, and I think, yeah, I think for the, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is because I think that there's a lot of good things, but then I definitely can see, the push to westernize culture for sure is happening fast.
Yeah.
But I also think like, one of the big things that was happening in Nicaragua and El Salvador when we were there is the highway construction. Because I think that they are planning some big infrastructure changes through Nicaragua right now. That may not be as nationalized news in terms of replacing the Panama Canal and seeing what happens there. And so, yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that changes things as well, right? Like I think yeah, it's different for sure.
Yeah, it is, it's one of these things where it's kind of like this double-edged sword because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we, a lot of times go to a place and this unfortunately happened in the little town that I grew up in, High Springs. It was, well, and actually the beach town I lived in too. It was like beautiful and pristine. The
Mhm.
nature was
Yeah.
just, the water. And then people are attracted by that. And as more people move there, they degrade the wildlife, the natural beauty. They, pollute, and now the water in both High Springs and Sarasota, where I lived as well. The beaches were like the most beautiful beaches in the world in Sarasota, and now you get like flesh-eating bacteria every summer.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah,
they close down the
yeah.
beach because it's been poisoned. So, I worry that like as like, these places that like, this happened in Mexico too. It's like the
Mhm.
culture changes and the tourism, I think also then ends up degrading things. So while that doesn't stop me from wanting to
Mhm.
travel,
Yeah.
and I feel that the influence of other cultures on me as a Westerner, and especially as an American, I didn't grow up very in the system. I was homeschooled,
Mhm.
grew up in a very like hippie, like, I had a very different upbringing, not the typical American upbringing. But to learn to slow down and to take
Mhm.
from like learn from other cultures, like how
Yeah.
to, what do they say in Costa Rica? Pura vida, right?
Yeah.
To slow down and enjoy life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so this influence can be really good on us, but then I do wonder like and maybe it's just what happens also, that it's not, this is just how it goes. This is
Mhm.
progress. This is the way things move. But yeah, I have kind of wrestled with that, like, ethically a little bit.
Yeah, I think for us anyways, I think when we personally travel into a space, we try to embrace the space as much as we can. Like I think like we, you know, volunteer where we can. We get the girls into, we did helping out with what are, kind of just various charities and things like that. And I think it's important to like recognize how much we have that impact and that we can do those things as well. Like one of the cool things that I know the girl, like my middle daughter wasn't very thrilled about the idea, but they actually went and in El was it El Zante? It was El Zante in El
Mm.
Salvador. They have a English school where they're trying to teach kids English after school because they recognize the importance of knowing English for tourism based jobs and those kinds of things. But they also teach them about Bitcoin, which was really interesting.
Yeah, that's
um,
Bitcoin Beach. That's where we went.
yes, yep, that's where it is. But yeah, so the girls, spent an afternoon practicing, I guess, practicing their Spanish, but helping these kids practice their English. And then on the Saturday or the Sunday, they have like a big just like a fun day where they play soccer and but it's all kind of in practice of learning English, and so they got the opportunity to hang out with a bunch of local kids and that kind of thing. And I think that as long as you're cognizantly aware, like we book through local tourist companies where we can, like we want our money going back into the economy. We've never really stayed in, like we don't do resorts because they're generally internationally owned. And I mean, that's not necessarily always why. They're also way more expensive, but but we like, and I think that's why we do a lot more slow travel too, right? Like when we go to Costa Rica, we were there for the year. Did we travel out from there? Yes, we absolutely did. But you get to know the people in your neighborhood and you get to experience the local businesses, and you get to decide where you're spending your money, and I think that's important too.
Yeah. Yeah. And to immerse yourself also. And again,
Mhm.
why would you want to like go to another country and then stay in like a Western resort and isolate yourself? Like, to me, anyways, to
It's just
me,
a
it's
whole
about
different style of traveler.
right, right, right. I
I
don't know
mean,
about that
don't get me
world, I guess.
wrong, sitting by a pool is not a bad place to be.
I think for me, it is about the immersion, though. It's about the
Mm,
adventure.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's, it's funny. So you guys live up in the mountains, and so you're big into surfing. I'm just curious, how did that come about?
Well, well, we haven't always lived in the mountains. My husband grew up skiing, and so when it came time to kind of decide where we were going to settle down after university, um, not a lot of places were hiring teachers, which was kind of crazy because like now everybody's hiring. But at that time, we had the choice, like, because we're really, even then, actually, really big on being in a place that lights you up and being in a place that feels like home. And so we were actually quite aware of picking a place to settle down and what we kind of wanted for a place. Like we'd looked at a couple other like we kind of just basically threw out the map and went, okay, who's hiring? And who has a ski hill. Those were the two. Who's hiring, who has a ski hill. And Fernie came up. And the funny thing about Fernie is we just kind of went, like Andrew's recollection of Fernie, which is funny because like living here now, exactly what he drove through and went, oh, it just is a highway town. But if you actually get into town, it's actually quite a cute little heritage town. And so we just kind of went, okay, let's go check out Fernie. And we jumped in the car and we came up here for 24 hours. And within 24 hours, we decided this was it. And everything kind of fell into place from there. Um,
Nice.
the surfing, um, when my husband took his gap year before he went to university, he did a ski surf trip. I might butcher this. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. But he did a whole surf trip down the coast of the U.S. And so he learned how to surf, and it's kind of always been big on his list of things that he enjoys. And before we started really traveling, like we would go out to the east or the west coast of Canada. We've got Tofino for surfing. We did a lot of trips to Oregon when the girls were little, because it's a day's drive from here. And so it's just kind of always been another thing that everybody enjoys, or well, they all enjoy. I don't surf. But yeah, and then once we got to Costa Rica, of course, the girls just picked it up, and it's now on the list of things that we do.
So picked your home to live in for skiing, vacations for surfing. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Surprisingly, I grew up in Florida and I haven't lived on the beach. I didn't grow up on the beach, but I've lived in Florida my whole life and have never surfed.
I didn't yeah, I just found out like recently you could surf in Florida. Just kind of funny.
It's
Um,
not it's not quite as good as the West Coast, but
yeah,
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 all up and down Florida there are surfing spots. But
yeah,
the beach closest to me, which is about an hour away, there's a pier that there's always surfers out there. But yeah, never tried it. They have surf summer camps that I had thought about putting the girls in. But
yeah,
that's definitely when we were in El Zonte, I mean, constantly people just surfing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I was like, oh wow. Yeah, if we lived here, the girls, my kids, and the littlest, he's 3, but I'm sure, he would be into it too. That
The
would
little
definitely be a
ones
part
pick
of
it up
it.
the fastest. Our youngest was like instant. They're
Yeah.
light, really easy for them to get from their bellies to their feet.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it just becomes second nature. I would try, but I'm sure I would make an ass of myself, but
I've tried a couple times now, and I just am not, I don't know. It's too many things to think about all at once. I'm very similar. I can actually ski, but like skiing for me feels a lot of the same sometimes, where it's like, okay, I got to think about all these things, and then I still got to get down the hill safely. I feel the same way, but at least I grew up skiing sort of, so I have
I've
the
never been
skill,
skiing
whereas
either.
the
So
surfing, on the other hand, I did not pick up easily.
I have been water skiing, but I've actually never seen snow.
Really? I should
Yes.
I should flip my It is snowing here right now, which is kind of
It
nice
is
because
85 degrees here right now.
uh,
So that's a perfect transition because I wanted to talk to you about your podcast. And that's
Mhm.
one of the funnest things about podcasting to me is getting to have these conversations. I'm in year 2 now of my podcast, getting to have these conversations with women all over the world. I mean, like I've literally now made friends with women on just all over the world, all over. And it's so I don't know. It's just so beautiful that like we can sit here
Mhm.
and have this conversation. And there's a lot of things about technology that I feel kind of like down about that we're not as connected to nature as we should be. And that it can be such an addiction and drain on our lives, and especially for kids. But one of the things I absolutely love about it is that we can hop on and have these conversations. There you are in Canada and it's snowing and it's like
Yeah.
here I
Yeah.
am down in Florida, it's hot as hell, and that we get to connect and like that to me is just so fun. So tell me about your podcast and your experience of podcasting.
Yeah, so the Pivot Life podcast started what, maybe 6 months ago. I don't even know. October, I think, was the first edition of I finally just pulled it up and started. Yeah, it's honestly the whole thing is just talking to so many amazing women about, big transitions in their lives or pivots in their lives and how they've used kind of that voice, that inner voice to make changes in their lives that they felt they needed at the time and how it worked out for them in the long run, how things have changed for them. So many inspiring stories, really. A lot of them come out of some sort of tragedy, unfortunately, but also some are just like, you know, really recognizing how our Western society is that go, 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 and that need and desire for something different. Yeah.
Yeah. So this podcast was actually really also born out of that experience that you've touched on. And so
Mhm.
I don't know if there's a backstory. We don't have to go into it here, but maybe everybody who's listening go check out Pivot Life to to get more on that. So yeah, I actually I think I've only listened to one episode, and for some reason I was thinking it was more to do with the traveling. So you're looking at women that are into all kinds of things. So
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, like I think for me, the biggest thing behind like the podcast is never going anywhere because I enjoy it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like for me, the travel is our pivot, but we're pivoting all the time. And I think, my husband and I, we really kind of embrace this, like, we almost live like on the edge of the gray, right? We're not so far over that we're living this like crazy, eclectic lifestyle, but we've definitely built a life around doing things differently and not quite fitting into the mold anywhere. And I think those are the stories that I just love so much is women particularly. It just happens to be that I've focused mostly on women. It's easier when you are a woman to talk to women. Um but yeah, like, and it is going to move into a little bit more on the travel side of things, but I still really just love keeping it broad and open and being able to just share these stories because I think that's the most amazing thing about podcasting and what podcasting has done is the amount of women out there that are now just getting to share their story because the stories are, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way. Like, I don't, obviously, I'm not making any money off this podcast. Like, it's totally a labor of love. I would love to be
Yeah.
making money off of it. Maybe I should like put a little plug in there, join my Patreon. Patreon.com/Nicole Goff Speaks. But really, it's because of these conversations.
Mhm.
And, again, like you said, I keep it broad. Ecstatic life can mean something different to
Yeah.
everyone. But following that passion and these stories of women, and I find the same thing in the conversations that I have, that there is usually some, as you call it, a pivot. There is usually some sort of thing that happens. And a lot of times it can be something tragic. It can be something that can be seen in a really negative light, but it
Mhm.
actually serves to, catapult people, to transition people into a better version of themselves, into a better life, into a more joyous experience. And hearing those stories and getting to connect with other women and giving other women a platform to share that is so important to me. And yeah, I love podcasts for that reason too, that we can get our voices out here and connect with someone else that's going to hear our story, and they're going to feel seen, they're going to feel heard, they're going to feel inspired.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing that just gets me going every day. I could do podcast interviews 24/7. It just fires me up so much.
I know, right? If I could figure out how to get paid to do this, I know there are people out there making money in podcasting. Hey, anybody out there that wants to sponsor me? It's just
Yeah.
my pitch, sorry. But if I could, like, yeah, absolutely. Because to me, like, yeah, it's so much fun. Like, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
But and I would love to come on yours. So
Yeah.
podcast swap for sure. Um, there was one other direction I wanted to go. And I wanted to talk about your business.
Yeah.
So The Gap, you're coaching families on exploring and embracing living this, like, um, exciting life. I mean, for some people, it probably seems just like a dream. There are a lot of
Hmm.
people that, my husband being one of those people, that have a hard time embracing change and embracing,
Hmm.
adventure in that way. And, for me, it's a lot of like dragging him along, because
Hmm.
I just love adventure, and I'm down to like chase all the adventures. But so what are you doing in that realm now? Like, how are you helping families to guide them in
Yeah.
this?
So I've got a couple kind of things going on with that, right? Like it's just in its baby infancy right now. But it's also something that I realized like both my husband and I are doing. Like we just had a couple that we know essentially live our whole our whole basically last 2 years adventures. They like went through our YouTube channel and went, oh, we're gonna do this, and and they're still on their trip right now, but like they went, okay, we're going to El Salvador and we're gonna go to Nicaragua and we're gonna do these things because Andrew and Shayla did them. So yeah, so basically kind of just helping families that are really already have that urge to go, but just needs either more clarity on how it could work out for them, figuring out, and it's not like I'm not going to go into details of your financials, like it's not my domain in any way, but I'm definitely open to having a conversation of what is possible. And so, clarity calls in terms of, yeah, what is possible? How did we do it? What kind of things do you need to watch out for? Those kinds of things. Do you need visas? Do you not need visas? What countries are you thinking of? Helping families kind of narrow down those pieces. And then on the other side, kind of as a bigger package would be, okay, we're going, what do we need to know about how we pull this off? And so, I've been essentially doing this for almost 20 years in terms of like planning longer term trips that involve visas and schooling and, all the things, right? So I'm pretty well versed in figuring those things out. And so it's just kind of taking that knowledge and supporting families that, are thinking about it or are kind of in the steps, but not sure what direction to go in.
Well, so you mentioned your podcast. I mean, I'm sorry, not your podcast, your YouTube channel. And so
So,
that has been like a long ongoing, like your family travels,
mhm.
right? Do you want
Yes,
to
yeah.
talk about that a little?
Yeah, so Growing Up Gulyas is our YouTube channel. And we started that while we were in Costa Rica the first time. And so it's been 4 years now. And yeah, it just kind of documents all of our more adventurous things that we're up to. We've done a little bit of the skiing, but it's a lot harder to kind of document most of the time. Well, our kids are competitive into freestyle skiing, and so it's just a lot harder to document in terms of like,
One of those little like GoPro helmet
well,
cams.
we do. We have all the tools.
Oh, okay.
We have all the tools. I even have like a full, lensed camera for the surfing and all of those things. Like I've got it all. But just in terms of telling a story, and I think that's the thing that I love about the YouTube channel is I really try to just tell the adventure story behind what we're doing, as well as kind of feed in information about where we are and what how somebody else could recreate that as they're going along as well.
Yeah, yes, I've checked out your channel and it is fun. It is fun. And I think that's why I was thinking the podcast was kind of going along with the like YouTube channel. So I think that
Yeah,
was where
I'm
my
working on
confusion about
kind
that
of trying
was.
to blend them a little bit, but the podcast, I just can't get away from these stories. It's just like I have interviewed a few people more recently that are, traveling and doing kind of those aspects. I have a girlfriend I've been dying to get onto my podcast because we met them in Costa Rica. And they have done the sold everything world schooling. They're very heavily involved in the world school, like they run like the world school cruises and stuff like that. Like they're very into that world. And I'm like, you have to come on the podcast. However, they are right now, I think they're in Singapore right now. The time change, we just cannot.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes it a little bit more challenging, but yeah.
Yes, I have a friend who I've made, Karen. She's been on the podcast now 4 times, and she is in Australia. And well, actually, she's in Bali. She just did the sell
Ooh, nice.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all the interviews that I've done with her, she has been in Australia, and yeah, the time difference has been quite fun to navigate. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, are we
Yeah.
doing your first thing in the morning or my bedtime?
Yeah. 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 But yeah, I am gonna start kind of blending them a little bit better. The YouTube is kind of own separate entity for the most part.
You're
Um,
multi-dimensional. You can have like the podcast be totally
yeah.
about, yeah, the pivot. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you are multi-dimensional.
That's one way to put it.
Well, it's fun because you are like, so you're blending like the more like traditional, working.
Mhm.
You have your house in the little town that you live in, and then also you're taking this time once every three
Yeah.
years, or I'm sure other times through the year you guys are vacationing and doing fun things too. But you're taking this time to go off and have these adventures. So that in and of itself is multidimensional. I mean, that is fun, and I would.
Yeah. And I think that actually kind of brings back a good point of why the YouTube is what it is and why the podcast is what it is, because it is this like I want people to know that it doesn't have to be the sell everything and travel, or I have to be 25 and single, or I have to be, because I think that there's this huge um, misconception about what it has to look like. And so, that's what I'm doing with the coaching and the strategy calls and all of that stuff is actually like, actually there are ways to do this, like we rent our house out. That is income coming in while we're traveling. So there's ways. And we've, again, we've shifted our entire lifestyle around making it possible. So
Yeah, because it's important to you and it lights you
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes your life more ecstatic. And yeah, and
Yeah.
when you find something that's like that, because I think that's really where it starts. When you find something
Mhm.
that lights you up in that way,
Yeah.
if you can commit to it, you can find a way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we live in a tiny little miner shack, in a town where everybody's in a multi-million dollar 7-bedroom house. Yeah. Like there's things, like don't get me wrong. And yes, there's days where that feels like a huge sacrifice. But it allows us to do the things that we enjoy, and it allows us to also be able to ski and also, so yeah, we've just kind of arranged everything to make it work.
Yeah, and to make your life what you want it to be
Hmm.
instead of fitting into a mold that other people expect you to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boom, mic drop.
Right.
Well, so is there anything else that you feel called to share here? Is there anything else? Also, ways to get in touch with you. I will definitely link your podcast and your YouTube channel and ways to work with you. I know your website is about to launch.
The
So maybe.
website is about to launch, and that's pivotlifestudios.com.
Oh,
So
Pivot Life Studios.
yeah, just kind of keeping it open there because we all know how multi-passionate I
Yes. Yeah, no, I like
am.
that.
Yeah, so if people are interested in, taking a gap year or even like shorter term travel, like, a couple months here or there, whatever, doors will be opening soon. So check back on that. Otherwise, currently at Shailah Gulyas on all social channels, I think. I keep flipping them around, but for the most part, at this point in time, they're under my personal socials. So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, I'm everywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, and I will link all that for anybody that wants to get in touch with you. And probably by the time this podcast comes out, you'll have launched your new website and the
Mm-hmm.
coaching will be open for service, which I actually probably before I plan my trip will want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably need to pick your brain on that. Um, Oh, awesome. And is there any last words you want to leave anybody with if somebody's like on the fence about travel or if somebody's like, oh, I just can't do it, or maybe somebody like needs help encouraging their husband to get on board? Anything you would say to a woman that's out there listening right now?
Well, first off, anything is possible. And I think that for me, anyways, the biggest thing in life is to not stall or regret not doing something because you can't see the way through. Because I think there is a way through for everything.
Mm, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And to hearken on Kelty Jeans, it's do it anyways,
Just do it
right?
anyways. That's
Just
right.
do it
Yeah. Thank
anyways.
you,
Yep.
Kelty.
Yeah, yes. No, I love that message because we can
Yeah.
always find reasons to stand in our own way of our own
Yeah.
happiness. There will
Oh,
always be
absolutely.
some reason.
And
Yeah.
the memories you're going to make with your kids, they're irreplaceable. Like it's just, I can't imagine not experiencing the world through my kids' eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ah, well, thank you so much. I'm
Yeah,
glad to finally get
absolutely.
you on. This has been some months in the making, so I really look forward to seeing you. You're inside the laws, right?
I am not.
Oh,
I
you're
am on
not.
a hiatus right now. Yeah, I
Oh.
ski season was a brutal one. We've been like I finally got to sleep in my own bed like a week ago. So I'm solely focused on getting the Pivot Life up and running and getting France organized right now. Because otherwise the list is getting way too long and my time is limited. So yeah,
Well, then I will see you on the Pivot Life.
you will.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Nicole.
Want to dance with me? Go deeper with me? Have me in your back pocket, literally? Join the Ecstatic Life Academy on the Go Collab app, link in show notes.